Um, okay, today and I'm not dressed. I have an emergency, so I had to do what I had to do. Um, but if you are dependent on anybody for anything, you are a slave. And this is something that is a variation of a lot of the things I myself growing up was told in different ways. Be independent. Um, if you can do it yourself, do it yourself. And even digging back further, the thing about teaching a man to fish, versus just giving him the fish. Okay? So, in the society that we live in, more and more as time goes along, and everything is a revolution, so it's going to revert back to the old ways after a while, too. We are getting rid of the fishermen. People are no longer independent. They don't think for themselves. They don't do for themselves. They do what they're told to do, when they're told to do it, how they're told to do it, and they don't have questions. And if they do have questions, because of the course of your day and everything that goes on in it, pretty soon those questions are killed. They squash them and it's true for me too. I mean, because that's what the system is there to do. It runs you around in circles and circles, and you don't have any time to think for yourself or do for yourself. You just do. And if you fall out of line of what you're told to do, then what happens is that people, that see you fall, they'll say, oh, well, you should have been doing what you were supposed to do if you kept, like there's a timeline. Like when you go to school, there's classes. If you got to go to each bell in each class, and if you miss something, then that's on you. Now, I'm going to say this. That is so important to me because, again, I've come through, you learn from things that you go through. And I've come through a lot of revelations, I guess, in the past 10 years of my life, because the past 10 years of my life, quite honestly, is the only time that I've really been through anything. Um, I've been exposed to some of the evils of the world. With me growing up, I always thought that, once you become an adult, that everything is in its place. But, in my old age now, 40, mid-age, middle age, whatever you want to call it, I realized that is not at all true. As a matter of fact, not only is that not at all true, most of the things that we've been taught is not at all true. And the more that you are exposed to different things, you see, how easily, perceptions can be changed. You see how easily something that's they can take something that's good and turn it into something that's bad. One of the things I didn't mention that I wanted to talk about it, I think it's called I may be saying it incorrectly because it's a whole lot of letters and the words are a little foreign to me. It's halagation effect. It's basically when you create a problem, there's no problem, but the opposition creates a problem in order to the opposition creates a problem in order to create a problem. For example, and then they find the answer to, then they provide their solution to a problem that they created in order to keep themselves around. And to me, again, that's what I believe that the system does, because you take a person like, you know, up until 30, never really been exposed to too much. If somebody said a bad word, I would cringe. If somebody said something that was too overtly sexual, I would cringe. Or didn't even have to be overtly. That had a reference to, if anybody did anything that was outside of what I taught was right, that you behave this way at school, you behave this way at work, I would cringe. But then I started to realize these people that I thought were upholders of those rules and those laws are the exact opposite. The people that are everything is the opposite of what you what you believe or what you've been raised on. At least for my generation, because I know with each generation they're teaching something different. Um, and again, the generation gap is created. Um, there are a lot of people, older people. Like I said, I'm, you know, about 40. Um, there are people that are older than me that realize this, through the process of their family and their family networks. Me growing up, I didn't really have family or family networks. I had a birth mother, a mother that birthed me, and she did take care of me with the help of the system after my parents divorced. And, and I start to wonder, was that care that was given, was it because, she's in a country that's not her own. She doesn't have anything here. She can't go back home, quote unquote home, because perhaps she tried to go and she was unwanted, like I did. and basically she didn't know her way in this country, so she had these kids. So, and she and her husband are divorced, no longer to be together again. She has these kids, and they're basically through the welfare system, I guess, providing a roof and all of that. So, I was basically raised, I guess, through the system, and I think, just her as being a human being, I think that, even when I was little, I thought it must have been really hard for her to walk down the street with her children with curly hair and dark brown skin, and other people that are of the same culture she is walk down the street and their families look nothing like hers. But neither here nor there. So I'm just saying that to say, I know that my mother, had her, you know, had her pains, that she had to get through and get over. And I'm going to say, the world is a tricky place. Not even really tricky, but you have to be, to me, in order to survive in this world, you have to kind of flock with the mass. You know what I'm saying? You can't be too good. And I've said this before. My father said it in a different way. You know, you can't be too good, and you got to be in the middle. So, but I've always been pure, and I'm starting to see, like now approaching 40, that some of the things have been tainted by this legal thing, and I don't want for that to be permitted to change my life and how I live about my life. Quite recently, I had a situation in a job where basically I was harassed the whole time, try to bring it to the attention of the owner, the manager, and I always internalize things and saying, well, maybe there was something that I could have done better, or this is a flaw that I see within me. If that was fixed, then everybody would be happy, And my flaw, and it wasn't really a flaw, because when I saw, it's just human nature. When I saw what happened, there were some real nasty things that were said on the sly. And I'm not going to address them here, because I was going to do something separate with that. Maybe it'll never get around to getting addressed, because I want to address it totally and fully. And there was a lot of little pieces that went into that. And, it was completely ignored, and I had to, basically quietly scream, hey, this is going on. You're a manager. You have to do something, But nothing wanted to be done. And then when it was addressed, what happened is the person that it was addressed against, I saw how they started to behave like I was behaving, because, again, you're hurt, and whatever, they felt like they were more than what they were, and, how dare somebody put them in place over me or speak to them over me. I don't know exactly what was said, So, again, the whole initial premise of this video was that, if you depend on anybody for anything, you're a slave. And to go even further, you know, and I don't want to talk in terms that people use all the time. I want to speak in my own words. The more bills that you create for yourself, the more you enslave yourself. The more you go away from the natural person, the more you enslave yourself, because that means that you're requiring unnatural things for you to maintain whatever you feel is a comfortable method of living. Anyways, this is too long, so I'm gonna go.